Hi, it's Achim. Welcome to the first episode of my new wreck project, The Search for the Thestis. Before I start, I would like to put out a disclaimer. There were quite a few people, especially on the GoFundMe page, that asked me, are you not afraid that somebody else is going for this and uses the data you provide in these videos and then bypasses you and dives the wreck before you? So in all honesty, there's two small details in the story that I'm telling you that I changed. Especially for that reason, I don't want anybody obviously to bypass me and be there before me using all my data. So it's two small things that will not change the story or anything, so it's not a problem for the full story, and I'll obviously reveal what I changed in my very last video, but so that's 100% sure that nobody can use this data and do something with it before I'm on the wreck. So before I get into the story, please make sure you hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you have not done that yet. And I hope you really enjoy this. There's a couple of links in the description of the video, also for the GoFundMe page and my Patreon site. So if you want to support my efforts, it would be super nice if you have a look. Now let's get into episode number 1. 1968. The penal colony on the small island of Pianosa, which is about 14 kilometers south of the island of Elba in the Mediterranean Sea and about 26 kilometers off the Italian mainland, was shut down as a penal colony, and it was transferred into a high security prison, which actually was running till the late 90s, I think 98 or so, but that's not interesting for our story. So this penal colony was closed down, and obviously a lot of things that were kind of left over went wherever, and some of that was auctioned. A good friend of mine, a French collector of maritime history and maritime goodies, let's call it, bought a wooden box in an auction in Rotterdam in the early months of 1969. This wooden box contained a couple of reports from the island, a couple of personal belongings, and a logbook in Danish. So 1969, I was not even born there. Years and years later, actually in 1998, this French collector and myself were already in contact for a couple of years. We were exchanging items, trading a little bit back and forth. We were helping each other when somebody was looking for certain data. So we both have a pretty big archive, and so we're in regular contact. And on one of these meetings that we had, he said that he's really interested in a dinner plate that I have from the Andrea Doria. And he asked me a couple of times before that, and normally we don't trade, but I mean you don't buy from each other. It's always either you have something that's of interest for the other one, so you can trade, or yeah, but you never put a price tag on these things. So in the end, he got the dinner plate, I got a couple of items from him, and one of these items was this logbook. So also I speak German and English, which normally helps you a lot with Danish. So if I take a modern Danish text and I can read it, I normally get an idea of what it is all about. It's not 100% or anything like that, and I can't talk, and I mean, even if people speak, I get some of it, but on a random conversation I'm pretty lost. But with this old handwriting, it was not possible. So even if you look at the letters around 1890, 1910, in that range, it's hard to read. So by the handwriting, that was out of question. So that logbook was sitting on my desk for a couple of months, and then other stuff was piling on top of it, and I kind of forgot it. So not until 2007 that I brought it back up, because in 2007 I had a professional translation company that was working for me, because I had quite a few documents that I had to have translated for my work, and it was quite a bit of money that I had to invest there. And working with these guys for a couple of months, at some point I asked him, like, hey, can you maybe have a look at this logbook and translate that for me? And so they said, yes, we can do that, we have somebody. And they did it. It took more than a year, and so I think I got it back in mid-2008 or something like that. And it cost a bit more than 1,500 euro to have this translated. So I'm just saying that because a lot of people ask, like, where's this money going? So that's one of these things. You have to have a certain amount of dedication to spend 1,500 euros on a translation of a book where you don't know what's inside there. Anyway, so 2008, so yeah, 10 years after I received the book, I finally could read it. And that was the moment when I knew about the story. So a little bit I knew before, I have to be honest. There was a couple of Italian reports in this wooden, or that came with this wooden box explaining what it was. So I had these translated before, that was easy. And the story goes as follows. On the 22nd of November 1904, a pretty burned lifeboat with an unconscious and very badly injured person and this wooden box washed ashore on the island of Pianosa. That person, obviously there's no real detailed information of what the issue was, but it stated that he was very badly injured and he was unconscious. That person did not regain consciousness and died on the 23rd. And so they obviously kept this wooden box, and I could not figure out what happened to the lifeboat, but that wooden box was kept there. And there was a small report that this person passed away, and yeah, they just kept the belongings. And one of these belongings was this logbook. And now, as I could read the logbook, we know that this logbook belonged to a Danish gentleman named Bjarne Thorn. I hope I pronounced that correct. If not, please correct me. And Bjarne was born on the 14th of April 1847 in Odense in Denmark. And the book, to be fair, the book is not a classical logbook in the meaning of it just states the important facts of the journey of this vessel. So it's not like the date and the direction and the speed and the wind and all of this, but it's a bit more of a diary. So there's a lot of notes, and some of these days have 3 or 4 pages. So it's a diary plus all the nautical information. So Bjarne was born, as I said, on the 14th of April 1847 in Odense. And we don't know much about his childhood or how he was raised or whatever. What is pretty clear when you read through it is that he had no family, so no wife, no kids. He was on his own, and we will later in the story figure out that there obviously was somebody, a nephew or whatever, but there was some sort of family around, but he was obviously not connected to them very much. So what we know is that he was a salesman, and he in the city of Holstebro, and he was very successful. So in 1897 he said, okay, I'm done. I have so much money, I can retire, I don't want to work anymore, and I want to spend the rest of my life with something that I really love, and this is traveling and exploring the world. So he ordered a ship to be built for him, and then started to sell all his belongings. So he sold his house and whatever he had that he doesn't need anymore, took all his money, and it's not really clear there, but the way he describes it, it looks like most of the money he received that he did not spend on the vessel that he wanted to take with him was not somewhere in a bank or whatever, but he had it with him in gold. And that's actually the part why I said I call this expedition Going for Gold. Also, I don't think that there's something to be found. Why this is, I'll reveal later. But I mean, even if it is there, you need to find it. So I wouldn't count for that, but that's the idea behind. So yeah, he had this vessel built. So the ship's called Thestis, terrible name, I can't pronounce it. I think I recorded this part of the video like 10 times. Thestis. And it's a wooden sloop-rigged sailing vessel. I have a pic here how that looks, the kind of rigging. And it was built in 1898 by Madsen in Frederikshavn. So the specs of the ship, it was 54.5 feet long, that's 16.6 meters. The beam was 20 feet 5 inches, which is 6 meters and 24 centimeters. The draft was 8 feet and 2 inches, which is 2.5 meters, and it had a displacement of 34.2 tons. So it's a pretty decent vessel. And so he outfitted it, and then he transferred it to the harbor of Styre. I put a map here so you can see where this is. Pronunciation of these Danish names is not my strongest point, so if you're Danish you can correct me. And on the 14th of April 1899 he finally put everything on the boat, and if you followed the story, that's his 52nd birthday. So on his 52nd birthday, Bjarne put everything on the boat, set sail, and left the harbor of Styre and started his journey. And we end our episode here for today, and we will follow his journey on the second episode and see where he went and what he was doing, and follow him along a little bit. You already know it's 5 years till his lifeboat was found, but I'll explain a little bit more in my second episode. So far I hope you like this. Please remember the like button, stay safe, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.